Let's break down the fallout from Meghan Markle's keynote speech at the TIME100 summit, which was intended to be a celebration of female entrepreneurship but quickly spiraled into a series of missteps that left many in the audience feeling underwhelmed. When Meghan stepped onto the stage at Jazz at Lincoln Center, the atmosphere was charged with anticipation. Attendees were eager to hear from a woman who had once captivated the world with her story, her advocacy, and her vision for the future. But what they received was far from the expected inspiration. For nearly 16 minutes, Meghan rambled on, primarily about her personal life and her entrepreneurial ventures, but with an overwhelming focus on her own achievements. It felt less like a keynote address and more like a drawn-out infomercial for her brand. She spoke about her lifestyle brand, American Riviera Orchard, and her Netflix show, With Love, Meghan, but the content lacked depth and meaning. What was supposed to be a discussion about entrepreneurship turned into a self-centered narrative that failed to resonate with the audience, composed largely of influential leaders and thinkers who were looking for actionable insights. As we sift through the details, we can see where the speech began to falter. Meghan's fixation on her own happiness was palpable. She repeatedly emphasized that she was the happiest I've ever been, a statement that came across as tone-deaf in a setting that was meant to address pressing global issues like climate justice and human rights. While many in the audience were eager to engage in a thoughtful dialogue about the barriers women face in business, Meghan's anecdotes about her children and her personal life dominated her speech. Sure, sharing personal stories can sometimes create a connection, but in this case, it alienated her from the very audience she was supposed to inspire. The audience's reaction, or lack thereof, was telling. Reports indicate that attendees were visibly bored, some even resorting to checking their phones or whispering amongst themselves. One attendee's remark about Meghan discussing her jam sales as if it were a matter of world peace encapsulated the disconnect. This wasn't a light-hearted gathering, it was a serious summit aimed at tackling significant challenges. Yet here was Meghan, seemingly oblivious to the weight of the moment, focusing instead on her personal brand and its modest achievements. Let's not overlook the delivery of the speech, which was riddled with nervous tics that only served to distance her from the audience. Observers noted her frequent blinking and hesitant pacing, which starkly contrasted with the confident deliveries of other speakers like Netflix CEO Ted Sarandos and comedian Nikki Glaser. In one particularly awkward moment, she paused mid-sentence to adjust her hair, losing her train of thought and prompting scattered chuckles among those present. Instead of commanding the stage, Meghan appeared flustered and unfocused, further diminishing her credibility as a business leader. And then there's the podcast, Confessions of a Female Founder. Meghan touted it as a top performer, but the reality was that it had slipped from its #1 spot in Apple's business category to barely making the top 10. This overstated success felt disingenuous, especially when juxtaposed with the serious discussions happening around her. Attendees were looking for leadership, for solutions, and instead, they received a sales pitch that felt forced and misguided. The disappointment in the room was palpable. Many had come expecting Meghan to discuss systemic barriers faced by women in business, share strategies for overcoming them, or even offer insights from her own journey. Instead, they were treated to tales that, while perhaps charming to some, lacked the substance required for such a high-profile event. Her focus on trivial experiences, such as her son losing a tooth or her decision not to film at home to maintain a sense of normalcy for her kids, felt disconnected from the realities facing women entrepreneurs today. In a setting where speakers like Catherine Coleman Flowers and Julia Navarra were addressing critical global issues, Meghan's approach was starkly out of place. While others highlighted the urgent need for action on climate justice and human rights, Meghan seemed lost in her own narrative, failing to connect her personal success to the broader challenges that women face in the business world. The dissonance was striking, and it certainly didn't go unnoticed. As Meghan continued her speech, the lack of engagement from the audience became increasingly evident. The minimal applause that followed her presentation spoke volumes. It was a clear indication that her message wasn't landing. Instead of inspiring her audience, she had managed to create a rift. The feedback from the event has been overwhelmingly critical, with many expressing disappointment that someone with her platform didn't seize the opportunity to address the real issues at hand. Her persistent self-promotion throughout the speech did more harm than good. It came across as if she was trying to sell her own narrative rather than contribute to a meaningful conversation. She's selling herself, not solutions, one executive was overheard saying during the event, a sentiment that echoed through post-event discussions. The expectation was that Meghan would share insights, strategies, and perhaps even some of the challenges she faced as a woman in business. Instead, she opted for a self-referential narrative that left many questioning her qualifications to speak at such a prestigious summit. Moving forward, what does this mean for Meghan Markle? It raises significant questions about her relevance and ability to connect with audiences beyond her core fan base. The backlash she faced online and the palpable disappointment from attendees suggest that people are craving authenticity and substance, not just a self-serving narrative. If Meghan hopes to maintain her credibility as a public figure and entrepreneur, she must understand the responsibility that comes with her platform. The world is watching, and if Meghan wants to be taken seriously as a business leader and advocate for women, she needs to engage with the pressing issues of our time. It's time for her to shift the focus from herself to the greater good and find a way to connect with her audience on a deeper level. Instead of presenting a self-centered narrative, she should consider how her experiences can serve as a platform for broader discussions on entrepreneurship, empowerment, and the challenges women face in the business landscape. In conclusion, Meghan Markle's keynote speech at the TIME100 summit was a misstep that highlighted a critical disconnect between her narrative and the expectations of a serious audience. While she may have intended to inspire, her focus on personal accomplishments overshadowed the pressing issues at hand. If she hopes to carve out a meaningful place for herself in the business world and beyond, it's clear that she needs to rethink her approach. The clock is ticking, and her next move could determine whether she sinks or swims in the public eye. It's time for Meghan to step up, reassess her strategy, and deliver the substance that audiences are craving. Because in a world increasingly hungry for genuine leadership, it's crucial that she transforms her narrative from one of self-promotion to one of real impact and inspiration.